So let's have a look at the different vendors. And we're looking at a couple of different reports here. On the left-hand side, we've got a worldwide SD-WAN infrastructure 2020 share snapshot. So you can see here, Cisco has a very large share, then followed by the other top vendors, VMware, Versa, Silver Peak Aruba, Fortinet, etc. If we look at the leaders in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for SD-WAN, you can see the vendors that we've qualified make up more than 70% of the worldwide SD-WAN infrastructure market. And we're looking at qualifying more and more of these vendors as well. So the reason is we obviously want to make it easy to cover as many different vendors as possible. You'll take that virtual license, deploy it on top of the Megaport Virtual Edge, and then you are off and running and able to deploy those services, connect into a private network, and benefit from that private connectivity to cloud, branch to branch, branch to data center, and so on. Okay, so I think we've got another poll coming up related to what we've just seen there with the different vendors. So this one is, which SD-WAN vendors are you interested in? So Cisco Viptela, which is known as Cisco SD-WAN, Cisco Meraki, Fortinet, Versa, VMware, HPE, Aruba, or other. So we'll just give you a few seconds on those. So if you can get your votes in, that would be great. A few more coming through. That's it. Last few seconds, and let's see some results. If we can. Okay, the results are not coming through. Maybe we can get those. Oh, here they are. Okay, so again, quite an even spread. We can see that Cisco SD-WAN has got a very large share with over 50%. Fortinet is also very popular. VMware is also above the average there as well, I would say. So that's an interesting spread, but it is interesting that, you know, the top vendors are being shown there within that poll results. Great, thank you for your participation in that. So moving ahead, let's talk about the different vendors themselves. So like I said, we initially launched with Cisco. Cisco allows you to control the SD-WAN solution through a single pane of glass. So if you go into your vManage console, you can provision all of the services from there. You can provision connectivity from the branches, connect branches together if you want to. You can spin up a Megaport Virtual Edge, connect the branches to the Virtual Edge, and you can also provision the connectivity right the way through the Megaport network and into the cloud on-ramps, so into Google, into Microsoft, and into AWS. And then further to that, you can connect them into the gateways inside the cloud. You can change the routing tables. So a full single pane of glass for a software-defined cloud interconnect, that SDCI terminology that's often used with this solution. We're also on the global price list from Cisco. So you can order this solution. You can order the Megaport Virtual Edge through Cisco's CCW or through a Cisco partner that you're using today. So where does that live inside the vManage console? So if you go into vManage, those who are familiar with it, we'll go into the menu on the left-hand side. You go to configuration and then cloud on-ramp for multi-cloud. So that's where the Megaport piece lives. And then there are two options inside that. There's a cloud configuration, which allows you to do direct connectivity to cloud, but that is over the internet. The other option is to click on Interconnect, which is where Megaport lives. And that is where we are. We're an Interconnect gateway, and you can manage the different gateways all through vManage and then connect them off to cloud and indeed connect them to each other anywhere in the globe. So for example, if you have branches in Frankfurt and other branches in Singapore, You can spin up an MVE in both of those locations, connect your branches into them, and then join those two MVEs together with the majority of your connection, private connection across Megaport. Okay, so the next one is Fortinet. Fortinet has been around for many years and has been a trusted firewall vendor and is present in many, many enterprises as a firewall solution that everyone kind of knows and trusts. The other thing that might not be as well known is that from version 6.2.3 of the FortiGate, you can actually configure SD-WAN configuration on those elements without any additional requirements. So SD-WAN is built in to these solutions from very early on, and you can basically turn on that functionality and start using it. Another interesting thing is you can use the Fortinet as a single element. So you can have a single branch connecting into a Megaport Virtual Edge and then getting a private connection into cloud. So the benefit here is that you get lower egress fees, you get a better quality connection with a dedicated interface into the clouds. So for example, for AWS, that's a direct connect. For Azure, that's an express route. For Google, that's a Google Partner Interconnect. We're also showing the ability for remote users to connect in with IPsec VPNs into the MVE. Now, of course, this is a very simple type of option, but it could be good for connecting maybe a headquarters or certain branches that need that better quality connection to cloud, and maybe they're not getting that across the internet today. You can, of course, connect lots of different branches into the Megaport Virtual Edge, hundreds of branches if you wish to do that. This is just one example. The next one is VMware, and this one really has got a very strong product portfolio that allows you to deploy in large scale deployments. So VMware have been designing it to be deployed in large scale deployments and also designing it to be as simple to set up and manage as possible. So they've got a large rollout of this already, many customers using it. And if you're looking at some of the Gartner reports, you can see in those reports that they are complementing VMware on their strong SASE vision and the direction that they're going in there to be able to support network security as a service, especially as customers move more towards the cloud. The next one is Versa. And if you look at the Versa solution, you can, of course, connect across the internet. But if you augment that with a Megaport SDN, along with the Megaport Virtual Edge, it allows you to take away some of that uncertainty of going over the internet for your connectivity to cloud, to data centers, branch to branch. So use the Megaport private connectivity where you can. With Versa, they are all about SD-WAN and SASE. That's all they do. That's what it was designed for. They have a single pipeline architecture, which gives you the automation, the analytics, the security, the visibility into your network. They're very proud of their simple design, usability of the whole platform as well. And they're also very proud that you get what you see. So there's no hidden costs, and it's a simplified model that users can get up to speed very quickly in and start using. So that's their focus, and that's what they want to be good at, of course. With Aruba, there is more of a large enterprise focus. So very strong in path selection capabilities. So obviously the Megaport network, your private network, should be the predominantly selected path in any SD-WAN network, but there also could be other paths in there as well. The Aruba platform is really good at that, and they've got really high customer satisfaction scores out there as well, but really targeting those medium to large scale enterprises and being able to scale at large scale, and it's widely deployed in the market as well. So let's look at some of the terminology across the different vendors that we see. So they all have similar terminology, but a little bit different. So here at the top, we can see the different vendors have different management devices looking after the edge devices and also the control plane. So for Cisco, it's Cisco vManage. The edge device in the middle in red here, that is the device that you take and you deploy on top of the Megaport Virtual Edge. So we're the hosting platform, but you're taking one of your SD-WAN edge elements and deploying that on top of us. So for Cisco, that's a C8000V or a Catalyst 8000V. And that's the element that you deploy there. And all of the capabilities within that C8000V are possible on the Megaport Virtual Edge as well. That comes under the vSmart control plane. And there's also some other elements there like vBond, which interrogates new branches as they're joined into the network. For Fortinet, it's the FortiGate Edge device as the MVE element, and then the Fortinet SD-WAN orchestrator for the control plane. For VMware, it's a virtual edge and the VMware SD-WAN controller. For Versa, it's the Versa operating system, which used to be known as Flex VNF, but now the new name is the Versa operating system for that virtual element. And that is running on the control plane called Versa controller. And then for Aruba, it's the Aruba Edge Connect Virtual, or the ECV. That is the element that you deploy on top of Megaport. So different terminology, but you can see many of them, in the control plane are using the term controller, FortiGate a little bit different, and then orchestrator, director being interchanged for that management interface that allows you to control the policy across your SD-WAN network. So let's give you a little example of what that looks like and how quickly you can provision a service. So we've got some screenshots of provisioning a Versa example here. So you go into the Versa director, you get a license. So you take that license number, and then you go into the Megaport portal. And for anyone who's used the portal before, we've kept the same simple control inside that Megaport portal. So you just select Create MVE. You select the country that you want to deploy the device in, and then the metro that you're interested in. Next, you select the version of soft or virtual device that you want to deploy on top of that virtual edge. In this case, it's a Versa edge device. You put in some details here about the director address, the controller address, and some authentication for local and remote, and then you deploy that. After a few minutes, that will come under the control of the Versa director, and it will appear there. If you also look in the Megaport console, you'll see the device has come up, it's available, you can monitor it from there, you can look at the details around the traffic and stats from here. You can also see the connection to the internet is automatically connected. So there's an IP transit interface automatically brought up there. The bandwidth of that internet connectivity depends on the size of the virtual edge that you deploy. So this example is a small, and then 1 gig for medium and 5 gig for the large. Okay, so now we've got a little section on the SD-WAN licensing, and this can be quite, a difficult to understand section for many. Comparing the different vendors, how do they charge for the bandwidth, for the license tiers, etc. I'm going to run through it now and try to summarize it. But Gary, who is answering your questions right now, has written a blog on this. If you go to megaport.com/blog, there's a recent item in there which nicely explains all of the different licensing options from these vendors. Okay, but for Cisco, for a C8000V, which is the license that you want to deploy on top of Megaport, you just have to align the bandwidth with the size of Megaport Virtual Edge that you're deploying. So you need to have at least a tier 2 for a small and medium, and then a tier 3 for the large. You also need to have the right license tier available as well. So that is Cisco DNA Advantage or Cisco DNA Premier. Okay, and you can bring your own licenses with you as well, because we're not providing these licenses. So if you're already deploying a Cisco SD-WAN solution, you could take one of those licenses and drop that onto a Megaport Virtual Edge and start using it, connecting into our network. The next element is Fortinet. So they are not asking for you to align the bandwidth. They don't have a bandwidth tier. It's based on the number of CPUs that you're using the FortiGate device on. So you basically just have to match your CPUs with the small, medium, and large number of CPUs for the Megaport Virtual Edge. It is advised to take the SD-WAN orchestrator, but you don't have to. With Fortinet, you can manage individual elements and SD-WAN enable them if you want to, but obviously the orchestrator gets you better control, visibility, and the ability to push out policy across multiple devices in an SD-WAN network. With VMware, again, align the bandwidth with small, medium, and large, and then you need to have the right type of license tier. In this case, you need to have an enterprise MVE license to be able to deploy that. There's also some other things around the different regions and the term of that license as well. For Versa, it's very similar to VMware. You're aligning the prime SD-WAN solution tier, and you're also aligning the bandwidth, small, medium, and large. And there's a few other details about the license period and some other details there that you can line up. For Aruba, again, you align the license bandwidth, but there isn't a license tier. So it's about lining up that license bandwidth, and that's what you need. There are some other options on there with boost licenses to give you additional features. But now when we look across the whole range of SD-WAN licenses, what we can see is across the board, most of them need to have a license tier, apart from Fortinet, who does that on CPU basis. And then, that's a bandwidth tier, I should say. And then most of them need to have a license tier as well, apart from Aruba, which is entirely based on bandwidth.